Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Select Talent. My name is Matthew Olson. I am the president of Select Talent. We've been running this since 2K18. Just a little bit of backstory about Select Talent. We started in 2K18 as a Pro-Am team that wound up morphing into a league with over 300 people. So this is actually a step back for us, going down to 134, and we've got some interesting ways we're going to go ahead and make the game more accessible. We want to have the ultimate coaching simulator. With me today is Bryce Smith. Bryce, say hello to the people.
How we doing, y'all? It's the VP here. You know, we just make things happen. We got to get right into it. 134 people is going to be crazy. Everyone knows that Select Talent always comes out swinging. It's a whole network, baby. It's going to be the dream. Let's get it, though. Come on. I'm
All
excited.
right. Me too. Me too. But let's give the people what they want. And first, just a little bit of a story. Our goal is to run college football 25 with every team taken. We don't know if EA is going to go ahead and give us a 134 person dynasty. Again, that would be great, but we have plans just in case. We want to become the professional standard for online sports leagues. This is not a small goal, gentlemen. We want to be the best. We think we can do it better. And with that, we want to create a culture that just puts you inside this universe where you're playing against other people. So we're trying to take the computer out of the game as much as possible. So all of your results, you may play a couple of games against the computer, but all in all, it depends on what you do against the other guy across the line. And with that, we have ways we're gonna try to limit negative interactions between people. I'm sure Bryce and other people in the first iteration of Select Talent can tell you some interesting stories about just a whole lot of people. Whenever you have this many people, you get a whole lot of attitudes, a whole lot of the points of view, and we're just trying to provide something where we can take the community feedback and just give people what they want and something that we can sustain. Because I want to be playing this, 5, 6 years from now, in like season 35. I don't know about you, Bryce, but that's my goal with what we're trying
Yeah,
to do
hey,
here.
building a community, building a network, that's the biggest thing that I want to do for Select Talent. That's the biggest thing that I've wanted to do for it since 2018. And there could be a whole separate podcast, video series, whatever you want to call it, on on the stories and the things that have happened within the past. What's it? Is it 24? Is that like 4, 5, almost 6 years now? That's it's it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna continue to be crazy. Positive. I'm hoping
Yes.
to not have as many negative stories, but we're gonna get into all that and more. We're gonna start. We're gonna get into it, man. Let's
You
go.
guys are lucky. You're getting in at the back end. So let's do this. Again, our goal is also to provide the biggest stage we can. So again, we're making this video. Sorry about the first one that came out. Some of you were looking for it, but the goal is to get the name out there so everyone can have their name out there. This is gonna it's still with only 134 people. It's gonna be a small community, but we're gonna have this out where people can start to follow the league. Like I'm sure we're gonna have fans propping up from outside of Select Talent itself, and that's what our goal is. But let me just go over a couple of things we've been working on. We've been working on this for, I want to say, as soon as they said the game was coming out, I think that's the first thing I mentioned that we were going to go ahead and slide over to college football. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Bryce, but I've been looking forward to this for a minute. Uh,
I definitely 100% remember you. If I remember correctly, I'm almost positive I remember hearing from you that they already like gave it the green light and they started working on it. So I like college football, that is, and
yeah,
I had no idea it was even like greenlit or ready to come out, whatever the case is, and that had to have been a year ago, dude.
yeah,
At the very
yeah,
least.
we've been working on this for a while. So, again, with that, we've looked at a lot of different scenarios. I know it's tough without having the game, but let's first go through the first problem we're going to have. Not really a problem, but the first item of business is going to be team selection. So I want to go through the draft lottery process. What we're doing, we've got a couple of different teams we're trying to clear off to make this as best as possible. But getting into it, we're going to have a randomly selected dynasty, basically think of an NBA draft lotto where they pull out the envelopes. That's what we're going to do here. Everyone's going to be in a random order draw. That is part of the feedback we got from everyone in the form they filled out. Just really quick, I can go into this and show you exactly what this looks like. And so, as you, I can't quite pull that up, so give me just 1 second.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that we'd always brought the poll out to, brought the question out to, was how do we want to do the selection? And that's one of the greatest things about this application form, which is almost filled, guys. You guys need to
There
go
are
out there.
only 20 coaching slots left to start.
20 guys. We started with 134, and it's been what?
It's down to
Two.
20. So, but with that, going back to it, we'll have a draft lottery, and we have a couple of people that, again, we've been working on this for over a year. Some of these people, we wanted to take care of them, get them a decent slot because they have been our sounding board. And with that, we do have a couple of slots reserved. That is slots 17 through 30. Basically, if you get selected first, you're going to have the first pick in the draft. You get to pick which school you want. If you are number 134, just remember Brock Purdy got to the Super Bowl this year. I don't know what else to tell you about that, but we'll
Greatness starts from everywhere, even at the bottom, guys. Okay.
exactly. And with this, we have ways where we're going to move coaches up. So if you are at a less desirable school, if you're on your fifth pick, not your first, uh, play it out. That's the best advice I could give. Play it out, and we'll go ahead and we have ways to move you up. But with that, we already have one team that is taken off of the board. This is by request. We have one of the fathers of a receiver at Texas State who was already in the game. He signed his NIL deal, and he said that I will, but I have to have Texas State. And Texas State being a relatively small school, we decided to go ahead and grant that. He's actually going to be the commissioner for the Sun Belt. But with that, we do have slots reserved, 17 through 30. There's 5 slots at the back end of that for just the group of people, and then each conference commissioner is going to have their slot. So again, in the top 25, top 26 picks, there'll at least be one representative from each school, from each conference.
And I think it's important to note that those conference commissioners are going to essentially be the main bridge between you and what's happening in between each conference.
Yeah,
These are the people who have been working on the back end and doing a lot of this stuff to get this stuff ready and like feedback and whatnot. And I think it's important to note that those conference commissioners is no joke. So if you're gonna if those 15, myself included, got to make sure we do right by the league, man.
like
But
realistically, you can in any sort of business military setting, you can only really have positive control over a team of like 7 to 10 people. So it's not logical to have one person be that sounding board for everyone. So we have that broken down, and just feel free to reach out to them if you have any questions. Again, we're all going to get the game at the same time, so we'll get into when we're going to start. But just bear with us. But again, so we're drafting 1 through 16. So the top 16 picks are available for anyone who gets selected in those slots. Then after the 30th pick, we go back down. Myself, leaders eat last. I do not have one of those slots. I just get picked where I go. And I do have a favorite team. Do not get it twisted. But with that, we did look at all of those forms. So we have an idea of what the conferences look like and who wanted to go where. And so for some of these schools where we had just relatively little interest, there's a couple. If we have a team like Wake Forest where there's only 2 people, we're going to extend an offer to both. The highest of those 2 players could go ahead and select that ahead of time. That's only for schools under 3 because we're trying to give everyone the greatest shot that they have. So we're looking at NC State. I know it's a little moving on me a little bit. NC State, Pitt, Wake Forest, and Cal, just to name a few. So we'll go
I think
through.
I think it's also like to mention that the part of the reason that we're doing this, Tex touched on a little bit about we're giving everyone the best chance to get their team. The greatest thing is with 134 people, there are going to be people that, of course, everyone wants Colorado, except for me. But beyond that, I I there is a very good possibility that if you like an Appalachian State or some crazy just out in the middle of nowhere, like more than likely you're probably going to get a chance to get them. But if you want a bigger school that has a bigger following or a bigger fan base and you don't get it, guys, like Tex talked about, play it through. We have a coaching carousel, which is very easy to understand and also very easy to move up, but it's also very easy to move down. So you got to be
Yep.
careful. But let's
And we'll get to that here in a second. But with that, the selection show is going to be presented live on YouTube. It's going to be simple. As we mentioned, everyone's going to have a 1 minute window. We're going to email that to you. We're going to send that to you. We're going to have post on college football headquarters. You're going to find it, and we're going to make sure you know that 1 minute window is yours. That's only because we're trying not to make this 3 4 hours long. I even looking at a 2 minute window is incredibly difficult because that puts it out of almost 5 hours. So what we're going to do is you'll just basically get your name called. You'll make your pick, and we'll go on from there. You can you can we can work on if you can go in and do live video. I don't know if we can have everybody in on that. So that might be a little bit difficult. It would just become really messy the more people we have. But we'll definitely have a way for you to send in the pick, even if it's just commenting in the live show we're going to have. That way, you'll have myself, Bryce. We'll have a couple of other people to answer any questions you have, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. And that's going to get the full treatment. That's going to be our live selection show. The way things are looking, that may even be in 2 weeks. Because as soon as we fill up those 20 slots, we're going to run that. We're going to run the lotto and go from there. Now, we're not excluding trades. We're not prohibiting it, but if people start to get nasty, you know, we may have to close that. Also, the teams will have to be locked as soon as EA starts showing player or team ratings, whichever those comes
that's when
first.
we will stop
Yes,
having trades go through. That's when we
yes,
will stop.
or at
That's
the
when
early
it's
release.
prohibited.
So again, I expect EA to start leaking stuff early, and again, the idea is one of the great things about doing this early. You can follow your team this spring.
Great.
See how their practices are going because you can start to learn your players with. They have over 10,000 players signed that NIL deal, so this is going to be a legit college football game. I am
I don't
excited.
know. I can't believe anyone ever doubted anything like that. Like it's been like we talked about in a earlier, unreleased video, we'll call it basically. Um, I was talking about how the people that have been working for the last 10 years that haven't had a college like football game to like it's like a stepping stone. It's a milestone for a lot of college athletes, whether you know, journey ends at D3, D2, D2, like D1, or you make it to the league, like whatever the situation is. And I just it's great to see so many people opt in, get a little bit of money, and get that cornerstone, get that milestone for them. It's great.
How many people have put themselves in a game like 2K? Like
Every
like
year,
legit.
every
Like I
year,
have my
every
I have my one point guard build that is me to real life, but he's terrible. That's why I don't
of
play point
course,
guard.
of course, of course.
That's why I didn't make it to the NBA. That's why I wasn't in that game. But
That's why.
anyway, exactly. Well, it's hard being a 6 foot point guard. I'm not gonna lie. But let me go in over just a couple of updates because again, it is a video game and we gives us a little bit of control over how we can make some small changes that'll just make it easier on everyone. The biggest is the independents. Notre Dame's going to be the only independent. We're going to forcibly move UConn and UMass to CUSA. That brings CUSA up to 12, so everyone's schedule should be relatively the same in conferences. Really, it was going to be difficult for us to handle UConn and UMass. Notre Dame, uh, just a side note, there we'll get to the coaching carousel pretty quickly. Because Notre Dame's an independent, it's on its own window. Notre Dame coach, whoever you are, understand, there are 75% of the people said they would take Notre Dame. So if you are not on your top game, you'll know. But I'll get back to our coaching carousel here shortly. Other than that, the Pac 2, with that being absolutely disseminated and destroyed this year, that causes a problem with how we're doing the coaching carousel. Uh, so what we did is we basically combined the Pac 2 and the Mountain West and shipped the schools that were out west in the Mountain West to the Pacific. So you've got Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Fresno. Basically, all the California schools, Oregon State, Washington State, Boise, and Hawaii. Everyone else in the Mountain West, it's not just Air Force. I still didn't fix that. But you will be in your own conference. And I've got a plan for how they're going to do the playoffs. Basically, if we have control over the playoffs and we have multiple dynasties, the Pac 7 and the Mountain West will have the first round playoff game every year. It'll just basically it's going to be like a bowl game, and we'll just explain that when we get to it. That does roll into the Select Talent Championship. It's going to be open until we get game details. It's really difficult for us to tell ahead of time. Um, I think this was the hardest thing we can predict. We with them saying they were having the playoffs in the game, we would expect it to be 12, possibly 14 that they talked about recently, and then 16. I don't even know. We'll probably put that to a vote once we get our hands on. So expect. I know I'm going to have it early release, and I know a couple of other people will too. So we'll go ahead and we're going to grind that out and run a couple
Well, the
tests.
best thing with like early release is that like we can get the questions together,
Mm-hmm.
together to get like the polls
Mm-hmm.
together to get feedback within the group, and we're gonna learn as you guys learn. So don't like I said,
Yeah, we're not planning to run on day one. Also,
right,
I want to
right,
give everyone
like
a little bit of time to play with their team, because you will have been looking over your team's information all summer long until July. So with that, we're going to give everybody just a couple of days. We'll probably start uh, the second Sunday. Sunday seems to be the day when most people were available in our polling question. So that's when we want to start off on a good foot and get that rocking and rolling. And then from there, with the championship, every conference champion gets an automatic bid. Again, it's going to be a little different than real life, but hey, you have to make it to get into it. And then also, um, unlike real life, if you lose your conference championship game, you're going to be barred from the selection in the Select Talent Championship. The way I see it, those conference championship games are just an extra playoff spot. So if you lose that, consider yourself out. Notre Dame, if they finish in the top of however many teams we have, if Notre Dame finishes where they would, in theory, have an automatic bid, we'll go ahead and they will be included as well. With that, the next thing that's going to help set us apart compared to other online leagues, we're going to go ahead and give everyone their own voice. We're going to have a preseason coaches show. This is going to happen before the start of season one, probably in that week after the game comes out, before we start, just so we can give everybody a chance to at least play with their team a little bit. And then basically just be a couple of interview questions that we're going to have for everyone. Just same questions, but you'll look at who's how do you think your quarterback's going to do? Who's your best player on offense, defense? What's your philosophy? Special teams. Who's your go-to guy there? And then where do you see yourself in the conference? And who do you think is going to win the conference? Just some basic questions you would expect. Once we for season two, we can start adding in like, hey, we know you lost your quarterback. What are you going to do to replace him? We're going to be able to play with that a little more after season one. These are going to be interesting, and we're going to have that in a very easy to find spot for you. So if you're playing Miami and you want to get an idea of where that coach's head's at, you can go ahead and you can check out his interview. We're going to make sure that every person does it. It's not really an optional interview. Video is. We understand some people may not want to have their face out there, and we're trying to comply with everybody's goals and intents. But again, we look forward to getting this thing rocking and rolling with the preseason show.
I think it's a really good opportunity for people to, like a lot of leagues that I know of, man. Like I don't really see a lot of leagues that are trying to do it like we plan and are going to do it. I just don't
Yeah.
see it.
And then to further expand on this, like what we're doing with the coaches show, basically, this is our podcast, and we're going to over the course of the year. That's where we're going to go over highlights. We'll have different coaches show up. May ask some questions about a game the night before, stuff like that. But we're going to have highlights from pretty much every game. And again, we have to see how this works first. You guys may have a little bit of work to do pulling out those videos for us. But we're also going to stream every game. With that, that makes it where you can find that film in one consistent place. YouTube's not the easiest to cut, go back, cut, and go back, and actually watch, break it down like you would a real football game. But we'll at least give you the option to view it, and it'll all be in one place. And then we'll have our highlights off of our channel. The coaches show will be on that channel, and we have something special in store for the playoffs. But I'm not going to reveal what that is because people may
Can't
take that
yet.
idea.
Can't yet.
And
Why?
no, we can't. We cannot give you that yet. But let's just say the Select Talent Championship is going to be something fierce, and we absolutely look forward to the first one of many. First one of many. But going into just some basic league operations. Um, Now, again, if EA gives us a 134 player dynasty, half of our work here is done. And we can do most of this in house. But if else, we have it already planned for that. And this is something that we've been working on, like I said, for a year because we didn't really anticipate them giving us 134. It's not realistic when Madden's only like 32. If they add like an offensive defensive coordinator, if they're running like 64, I would expect it. But they don't. So with that, we do plan to split the into multiple dynasties if need be. So you're looking at, say, if we have 40 people, we'll split the SEC and the ACC. Notre Dame's in with the ACC. If you didn't know, then Big 12, Big 10, and then we can start working on the smaller schools. Just depends on how exactly many people we have.
Doing
Um,
this also ensures that the conference commissioners have a touch more control. I mean, if they give us 134, that's amazing.
yeah,
We kind of just straight streamline it. Everyone can talk to everybody. We'll know what the schedule is going to be like, yada yada. But I think a big thing is even if we do have to separate them, at the very least, the conference commissioners will have a little bit more ability to communicate on what's going on with the smaller group of people.
yeah, and we're going to try to keep the schedules as close to real life as possible. Like for your non-conference, we're not really trying to reinvent the wheel. We know that with the few changes we made with the Mountain West and with the independents, that may throw a couple of wrinkles in there that we will have to deal with. But that's something we'll know again as soon as we get the game. I'm going to have one set up like this ready to go. But this way, we'll have one of our conference commissioners, someone that's been in with us, to control that dynasty as well, because there is an event where you may be asked to move to a different dynasty altogether, and we will have to figure out if and how we can do
Or
that.
play now
Yeah, well,
is also.
well, no, I'm saying in the coaching carousel, if somebody
Oh
moves,
right,
like if
right,
you
right.
move, if you're Rice, and you outperform your lower tier mates, get a chance to move up and then go to say Florida, you take the Gators, then we had to move you over from one dynasty to the other as well, and then vice versa.
Right,
But
right.
that's something we're already prepared for, and that's why we wanted to make sure we have one of those conference commissioners to just to make sure that we're following that straight. And again, just trying to give everybody one consecutive universe where anything outside of Select Town doesn't matter. Um, for us here in the league. But with that, for season one, if we do have to break this into multiple dynasties, we plan to play the non conference games against your opponent. in Play Now. Again, we may understand this may not be the most perfect solution, but they said they're going to do roster updates as well. So for season one, that's our plan. We'll also that'll apply to Select Talent Championship games. So we'll have everybody have to play that game online. With the playoffs, it becomes a little interesting because really we would have you go ahead and play those games too. But I'll get to that here shortly. For any injuries, suspensions, like if you get targeting within the online dynasty, then that's going to be carried over and enforced on the play now games. So we need to see that player buried at the very bottom of the depth chart before you get started. We're going to stream every game, so no one's really going to be able to hide an ineligible player. And we do hold a couple of rights, including a forfeit, or if egregious enough, that coach may be banned if they really did try to pull a fast one
Don't
on
make us
somebody.
do that.
Yeah, please
Make it
don't.
fair for everybody, guys.
Just
We all know what goes on when you use cheesy playbooks. We all know what goes on when you try to cut corners, and especially with everything being streamed. And and the crazy thing is, even if you don't get caught and you end up winning, like if we catch it down the line,
oh man, if somebody's game planning for you and they catch it, it's as good. It's you're still caught. So just don't do
just
it.
just
Just
don't do it.
yeah. Sorry, this is again. If there's a will, there's a way, and people always try. So again, with a group of this large, we have to assume for the worst, but plan. Was it hope for the best, but
For
plan for the worst? And then red shirters are also available to use in the play now games, just because that would be even harder to enforce. So basically, if they're on your roster and they're not injured in the dynasty or suspended, then they're able to play in the game. Now, with that, if you pick up any injuries or if you have a player get tossed out for targeting with a full game suspension for the next game, if it's in the second half, then that would be carried over to the that would not carry over to the online dynasty. So if it happens in play now, basically you get a pass. But if it happens in the online dynasty, it counts. So watch when you play in the computer. That would be the plan: is to play your regular human game, and then go in because we know with the coaching, um, with some of the coaching attributes, your goals are going to be based on that too. So in order to protect the recruiting, we have to allow you to play those games too. So you may wind up playing multiple games, especially early in the season. You may be playing 4 games a week. So just something to look out for. But again, those will be at your own pace. We'll get over to our timing and how we're going to run that. Uh, but with the bowl games, the same thing applies. If you're in the same dynasty, we'll go ahead and play those games. If you're not in the same dynasty, really, bowl games are not as great of importance to us as the Select Talent Championship. If you are in a bowl game and it's not against somebody within that dynasty, just go ahead and you have to play that on in the dynasty, not in play now. But for the in dynasty playoffs, again, this is one thing that's going to be weird if we do have to split everything. Basically, we'd have to play them out. The only games we wouldn't play out would be the Select Talent Championship. Any team that is entered into the Select Talent Championship and they play against another in dynasty opponent, that game's going to be simmed. This is so we don't have the team that made the playoffs play, you know, 5 games in a stretch of 2 days. That's just not realistic.
Right, and I
Um,
think I think it might also this that little blurb right there, that paragraph about the in dynasty playoffs and the playoffs in general. I think that might be one of the ones that is biggest like part of this that's subject to change
yeah,
because it dependent on how they like do the game and how they present the playoff, that could completely change, and we have to do something completely different. So that is probably one of the biggest things that is subject to change.
EA, hear me out. Just make 134 coaches in a game. Just do that.
Just
Just
streamline the
do that.
process.
Just do
Streamline
that.
the
They help
process. It'll take
help
some
us
time.
help you. Help us help you. But I digress. With that, the going into the scheduling of our games, basically we have a rotating schedule. That was voted on here. Um, let's see. Just so I can, full transparency, this is what we give the people what they want. That's the carousel NIL mandatory game of the week. Basically, with 65% of the vote, we had a 2 day window to schedule a game with an off day in between. We'll allow you to use that off day to cover your in dynasty games if you have them. So we just the reason for it, we're trying to do a whole lot with video. We're trying to hype up the league. Behind the scenes, we're gonna have highlights from every game being put up online. So that's how we're planning to build the league. And if it starts to really take off, we may have an Xbox League coming in. We do plan after a couple of seasons to run something with Madden, but that's another story for another day. We'll get there when we get there. Um, but that would all be within the select talent universe as well, which would just give us another opportunity to bring in 32 new coaches. But with that, all you have to do to schedule a game is we'll have our Discord open after the draft, and you just like if I'm scheduling a game against Bryson, we'll go ahead and just meet up and figure out when we can get that scheduled, and from there we'll just go into Google. That's why we had everybody with a Google Gmail account at the beginning in that application, is so we could run it this way. So all you would do is, all right, so what about Wednesday at 6?
Um, I don't know. I might be bad traffic. Can we do like 6:30?
Yeah, we can do that. Actually, I won't make it till let's just plan on getting settled in. So we'll put a hour window, so
That makes more
7,
sense. I agree with that.
and at Baylor. So boom, now we put that in here. You would also include on this, you would add that to other people and send the invite out. But we'll get into that here later in another video because that would take me a little more time than we got right now. But with that, um, again, every game against a human's going to be streamed. Just go ahead and you invite us on that Google Calendar. So we have one massive thing, and everyone's going to have access to the schedule too. So you can see when people are playing their games. One thing that we realize is that I know we have a couple of people that wanted us to play more games faster, but with a league this large, that with people all having lives, that's going to be difficult. We with our basketball league, pretty much came down to the fact we could run 2 games a week, um, and that worked
That
out.
was
That
that
actually
was the
worked out.
perfect. Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
that was. But I just think people have lives. I think that's
yeah,
just the
and with that,
biggest thing to understand.
we also, in our recruiting process for that league, we basically told people this is the window. We haven't done that here. If we need to, we will. But we wanted to just leave it open, and we figure we can find a way. But again, we can adjust this as necessary because it looks like most people are available on the weekends with fewer times open during the week. So if we have to adjust this, like if we have a uh, any day and then like if it's Monday through Friday and then Sunday games, we may have to do that. But again, work with us. We'll figure it out. That's not really a big problem. We'll get everybody on and get these games played. With that, we're going to make sure that, as you saw, everything's run through Google. That's also where we're going to have our stats. Um, Pretty much every coach will be given another form. We'll already have those pre-filled, preset for you, where all you have to do is enter the information and just basic stuff like who you are, who is the opponent, home, away, neutral, wins. Did you win it? Did you lose it? And then basic stats. You just enter that in and go from
And
there.
again, it's a bit of an honor system. Don't lie about your stats.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
lie
actually
about
hard to do.
one.
That's going to be really hard to
Like,
do because everyone's going to be in these dynasties. You're going to have 100, like even if we split up the dynasties, you're going to have 20 people look at that and they'll
and
know.
people are gonna want to like. Don't
Oh
just
yeah, that's
chill
I'm
it
not
out.
worried about that. But this is again, we're not tracking players, we're tracking coaches. This is a coach simulation, not a player simulation. So we may have an award for the best passing coach, best rushing coach, best defensive coach. We
Right?
can.
Offensive coach of the year, defensive coach of the
Yeah,
year.
one thing that wasn't in here is just true points, but that's going to be it. That's in on the form, because you say your points, your opponent's points, but it's easy to use, and all of that's going to be tracked in our what's the word I'm looking for, in our Google Drive. Again, this is a little too tight for me to show you here. So basically, we'll go through and we'll give everyone a link to this folder here, and you'll be able to take a peek at that. Look at the coaches while they filled out their application. Go in and go through, pick a school. Again, just Army to start. We'll have this spreadsheet open again. You'll have all of those stats. This was just a placeholder. Um, and then you'll be able to see how they did, and then we'll just carry these over through the year. It may actually go down by the actual coach instead of the team, so we have each coach with their own file. Which is probably something we're gonna work on, but we need to see it in practice first. But that's again just something for us to deal with here. Other than that, I think that's a pretty good rundown of everything until we get to the coaching carousel. This is a big one. This is going to be contentious. We already know we've worked on how to make this as realistic as possible. So, because it's a video game and we, again, can't assume that the player who gets Texas is going to be at the same quality as the coach at UTEP who wanted that job at Texas. Um, our goal is to be fair and give everyone an accelerated opportunity to move up or move down. So this is results driven. The way we're going to look at how your performance is based on how you do in conference. Your non-conference games, those play now games, are may decide one or two. What am I looking for? One or two at-large bids, but outside of that, it's all about what happens in the conference. You have to show up for those games. With that, every NCAA game gave you the conference preview with the preseason rankings for each team, and that is no different here. We can't assume that they're going to not have that in the game. If they do, we'll figure something else out. But again, work in progress. We don't even have the game yet. But the idea is we know we'll rank every team one through however many and compare your end of season record to that preseason prediction. That gives you a plus minus number. If you're in the positive, if you have a chance to move up. If you're in the negative, you may lose that school. So any team that finishes 4 spots below. So let's say that you finish here in this example. If you finish first, and the other, and you actually finished in fifth. So what would happen is you would have a -4, and that's where we would consider your coach fired. So that's going to lead to some interesting games at the end of the year. That game, the Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama, could cost somebody their job, quite literally, just depending on how you finish out the season. But again, this is giving other people a chance to move up as well. It's not all in the negative, and we do have, in addition, this is one goes out to Coach Tom. Uh, he actually presented this as an alternate idea. So if you do finish 3 spots below, so let's say your team is ranked 7th in the preseason and you finish in 10th, then in that case, your coach is considered to be on the hot seat. And then for the next season, so season 2, 3, whatever, you have to equal your preseason target, or you're going to get fired. If you make it through that season, everything's back to normal. you've got that other grace. There's no limit to the number of times someone could be on the hot seat. I'm sure it's not going to be a fun place to be because they're going to be working hard to hit that quota. But with that, we also have that on the positive side as well. There's two ways to enter the coaching carousel from the opposite direction. Going up, you can again finish with a plus minus of +4, or win the conference. Any conference champion is going to go already be in the playoffs. We're going to know who they are, and then what we'll do is we'll rank the teams if. The only way to move in, and this was voted on by the players, is you have to be in the conference. You have to have a team selected in that form to move into. So it has to line up. You understand what I'm saying, Bryson? So you're looking at having a team. Let's say Texas fails. UTEP's team moves up. They won the conference. They can't the only way they would go to Texas is if Texas lost and their coach got fired. If their coach is on the hot seat, the coach from UTEP can't just jump in. But
Okay.
again, that's why we gave everyone 10 options. So maybe you want to stay. That's fine too. If you want to build a team, if you want to build a dynasty, I'd love to see somebody build like just Coastal Carolina into an absolute force. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
I
yeah,
would love that.
that's your choice too. Again, we're gonna leave that up to the coach. But if you earn the chance to move up, you've earned it. And
And I think the coaching carousel, I think one thing maybe people might overlook just a touch, and I just want to touch on it a little bit. If you do not get the team that you want, and you like are, oh, I'm over this, I want to leave, and for whatever reason you're, that soft, and if you're that soft, I would just suggest going to find a different league. I'm not being rude, I'm just being honest. But if you don't like the team you have, this coaching carousel, if you perform well, can be your friend. You
mm-hmm,
could, and someone that got lucky, luck of the draw situation and got the 10th pick, whatever the situation is, and they picked, Bama, whatever, if they're still at 10, and you wanted Bama, and they fail horribly, and you finish, way above, your pay grade to where you're supposed to, you can get a chance to get the team you wanted. You can get a chance to get the number one team that you wanted. So I just want to touch on, if you don't like your team, the coaching carousel is probably one of the best ways, if not the best way, to go up and get to these higher universities and higher schools.
also, you're going to be hunted if you're at one of the bigger schools because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to
Destroy the
want
life.
you. Yeah, so you're going to be hunted. I'm looking at you, Notre Dame. I'm looking at you, Notre Dame. If you're a coach at Notre
Lord.
Dame, you better win 10 games. I'm just going to say
Lord.
that's probably going to be the minimum there. Uh, so, like I said, there's always a chance to move up in this league. We did this on purpose. There's a lot of thought that went into this. So we absolutely look forward to seeing how this is going to play out. Again, I'm trying to get back on track here, but that's the biggest thing. It's just it depends on how you do within the conference, and we got a couple of tiebreakers as well. But that's really just semantics at that point. You'll know if you rocked it, you'll have your shot. But again, that's your choice because you may be onto something there. If your goal is to make it to the playoffs every year, you could probably do that better at a lower conference. But you're also gonna. It all comes down to recruiting. That's what this
Yep.
game's really about. This is going to be some of the most cutthroat recruiting I think I've ever seen in any video game. I'm talking about within select talent because if we have to split these conferences, actually, if it's 134, it's going to be nasty because everyone's going to be fighting over the same couple of
That's
spots.
gonna be insane.
Oh, that's going to be dirty. I love it. I'm a fan of chaos. That's why we all like college football. It is the place for chaos. But with that, um, we understand being a brand new game. We're going to have a couple of exploits. Is that the? I'm looking at you, halfback direct. Um,
Yeah, exploits.
Yeah, exploits.
A nice way to
So
put it.
if anything's game breaking and we know that there is no counter to it, bring it to your conference commissioner. They'll bring it to us. We'll take a look. Um,
We're
other,
gonna have a ban list.
yeah,
Sorry, we're gonna have a
yeah.
ban
We
list. I'm
we
sorry.
maybe certain
I
plays. Again, we want to keep it wide open, but if something is if it's just broken, it's broken, then it's broken. But again, the threshold is high to ban anything, very high. Because there should be another way to counter something. Just because you got blown up by an inside veer by Navy doesn't mean we're gonna ban the wishbone.
right, right. It's just gonna be right. The standard in the bar will be set
Yes.
ridiculously high for anything banned, anyhow.
Then on the off seasons, pretty much what we would do is go through. Again, this is one of the things that's going to be difficult for us to tell until we see it in person. Extremely hard to tell how we can do this. Again, hopefully we have 134 people. EA takes care of us. We don't have to do anything else. Other than that, we may have a break in between while we try to compile the most up-to-date roster we can. Um, with that, there are over 11,000 players in each dynasty. They've already confirmed over 10,000 actual players. So what we would do is we would go complete the season after everyone's done with their playoff games, and we run that the run up to the start of the new season. That's where we would adjust the rosters from there. And then in the worst case scenario, we're going to manually put those in and just best case scenario, 134. Second best, we have a roster that we can actually pull from that EA makes it relatively easy, where we can just copy and paste the other schools, and then we can not take any time. But again, we'll know pretty much how long that first offseason is going to take after we get hands on the game. Before the general release. But other than that, I was just going to go through. That's pretty much just a frame rate, a frame for the league. Sorry, it's been a long day. But with that, I just want to go over a couple of these questions. Again, we only had one person, it appears, who did not consent to having their game streamed. They expect an email
Does it
from
say
us.
who it
We're gonna
was?
talk. We're gonna talk.
Does it say who it was at
I
all?
can find it. We'll know who it is. With that, we're gonna put all this together. Again, this should have been a drop down because that's a whole lot of different ways to type things. Although I do see someone from the Louisiana Lafayette. CU
Sorry,
Buffs,
sorry.
primetime baby, West Texas A&M. So instead, he picked Colorado State. I mean, there's 120 people that are 114 people that have signed up. So we've got a lot to the point that it's already kicking us into sheets. That's actually awesome. That means we've hit some type of mark. Then with that, just going over a couple of schools. Again, going back to the coaching carousel. If you get fired from Colorado, you're
Ooh.
not coaching. You're not coaching there no more. This is the prime effect. Out of 114 responses, we have 33
Prime
people
effect.
wanted to pick up the oh, come on, come on. If you look good, you feel good, you feel good, you play good, they pay good. And that's what we're trying to get is that NIL money so they can spend it somewhere else. Let's go, baby. I don't know. Dion actually reminds me of like an Italian mobster, but I digress. With that, just going through a couple of other top schools. Also, of note, even after another day, no one selected the Houston Cougars. No one. Houston, Cougars, Houston, H-Town. Where are you at? With that, going to the ACC, we've got a couple of schools, Pitt and NC State. These may Wake Forest, Cal. So with the ACC, the highest school is Florida State, FSU, followed by Miami and North Carolina. That's pretty tight. And then you can see that a couple people won every other school. So um, if you are in one of those in the coaching carousel, working your way up, there should be plenty of slots open because I can't see how all 9 other conferences are going to go chalk. I just don't see it. But with that, you got UCLA, Rutgers. No one likes the Bruins, evidently. IU, that's understandable. Their football is less than stellar. And we have one person at Northwestern, so if you selected Northwestern, you might actually get your pick. Without actually having to go through the draft, we would reach out to you directly. So you only have 20 more people who could possibly pick Northwestern. Otherwise, it's yours. Going through,
There's applications in, guys. You,
I
I'm
really should.
telling you.
We really should
When
have split this up. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Bryce.
when this drops, like after we get everyone in here, and this becomes like what me and Tex and all the other commissioners and hopefully everyone that wants to play in it, it becomes what it's going to be. You guys are going to be kicking yourselves. I'm telling you.
You don't want to wait. You don't want to wait like 3 or 4 months to get into season 2 or to get into season 3 when we split off some people to Madden. And even then, you need to be in the next 32 because we will have a wait list. Um, if anyone, we're going to keep the application open. We do plan to have a wait list just in case people decide that this isn't for them. They can't handle the cutthroat situation that we are building here. Speaking of cutthroat, you can tell that the SEC is different from the other Power Fives. Basically, everything's spread around. Interesting that Florida and newcomer Texas are the highest rated, are highest desired schools. You've got, but everybody has something. So the SEC is well represented across the board. So that's going to be another one where a lot of people want to go. Make sure you're on your P's and Q's, and we're sure that something will pop up for everybody. And eventually, again, I think everyone's going to start to settle. Like there are going to be people that are just better at the game than other people, and they'll
Right.
wind up taking those higher slots. Um, but that is built in, and we just want to make sure that we have the best teams with the best coaches, and give the coaches a chance to move up. Actually, one of like I looked at a weird stat. A disproportionate number of MAC coaches wound up in the NFL. But
Interesting.
yep. So with that, looking at the AAC, their top getter is South Florida. That's also by population because South Florida is in Tampa, and Tampa is huge. Along with Tulane, they've had a good run lately in Memphis with the Tigers coming in very strong there. Looking at CUSA, again, there's going to be 2 new schools here with UMass and UConn. But again, these smaller schools actually do have some people that are looking for them. So it'll be very interesting when it comes down to the draft. I'm interested to see how that'll go. Let me
These
see.
people like liberty. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, we've got, like I said, we've got everything already planned out, ready to go for the draft. We're ahead of the curve, my friends, ahead of the curve. Um, I just don't have the time to put that into one specific perspective. Looking at the Mountain West, top vote getter is Boise State. Again, they're going to be in the pack, along with Hawaii, along with San Diego State. So really, the pack is well represented. The MAC not so much. Air Force, Colorado State, Wyoming, Utah State, UNLV are going to be over there in the WAC, along with New Mexico and Nevada. And then in the Sun Belt, again, we have one team that is already taken. That is the Texas State Bobcats. Like I said, one of the one of the conference commissioners, his son plays at Texas State, transferred in this year, and we look forward to seeing how he does specifically. But just in general across the board, I think we have a. You can see that there's not many holes other than Houston for some reason, and everyone wants something different. This is a great thing about having this many options. I think EA has already started to say there's 134 ways to play, and there's probably more than that when comes down to it. Um, Going over just a couple of other quick things, it looks like based off of the community feedback, we're looking at 7-minute quarters. That's just taking the minimum here versus the maximum, and it's drawing a line straight through. It looks like it's going to be 7. Um, actually the majority, the median is 6 minutes, but it's going to wind up being 7. It looks like. I don't think that enough people are going to be able to. The next 20 people are going to be able to change that. Um, Going in, we already went over the game window. Something I found interesting was the NIL. Most people want it on. Just a curiosity on our part to see how people want it. Again, I can see it going both ways, but it looks like it's going to be a fact of life here in Select Talent as the people have chosen.
I don't know how they're gonna quantify it. That's all. I just want to see how they're
Well,
gonna break it down.
yeah, if in the event that okay, worst fear that I have for Select Talent being online and EA and microtransactions is if you can buy your way into NIL deals.
Oh
Like if you
God.
could take real money and put it in for an NIL deal,
Right.
in
Right.
that case, we're gonna have to turn that off. That's the only thing I could think of. If there, again, we won't know until we get the game on, but do not expect to be able to dump money and get NIL deals. We'll know if Hawaii starts pulling 5-star recruits. Don't do that. That's not what we're about here. We want it fair. Everyone, I just spent a fair amount of money getting a PS5 for the first time. Really only for this game.
And you're
Uh,
lucky that's on play.
downgrade from a PC, but again, I digress. With that, just to go over the coaching carousel, I know it looked a little funny how this was worded, but the idea was we have an idea of time and an idea of if we wanted that hot seat to have be open or need a pre-selected school open. If you look at it this way, blue is the having needing a pre-selected school, and so is red. So we can take a look at it like this, and we can tell that yes, a majority of people, over 63%, wanted it to be locked into a place you want to go already. And then if you look at time, green and orange are the smaller slots where if you were 3, uh, if you fail 3 spots down, you would get fired. We did take the larger option. That is between red and green, and that also is about 60, almost 65%. So that's how we came to that conclusion. Again, with 114 people, this is pretty much there's not going to be any change there. Team selection. This is why we are doing the random draft. It's just the people have spoken. We did track who put in their application when they put in the application, so that we have that. But again, the random order is going to win the rule of the day. With that, the next one down, we did ask everyone if we wanted to make a Madden League as well. Majority said yes. Again, we're not going to force anybody to do that. If we get 32 people that say, "Hey, I want to see what I can do," and that'll be most likely be merit based. We're not going to take a team from back-to-back 4-8 Memphis. They're probably not going to
Right.
get an option to take the Patriots. I'm sorry, but it'll be merit based, and we'll get in. We'll figure that out as we go. We'll know who the real deals are. And with that, another one is the player speed rating, and that is here. And back in NCAA 14 and some of the other, you were able to adjust the slider for player speed. So 0 means that the receivers are Usain Bolt and your linemen are Refrigerator Perry. If it was set the other way to 99, you would have um, really fast linemen. So this just creates the highest speed difference. Just looking at the graph, you can tell that only 2 people picked 40% or picked 40 out of that number. Most picked 0. So that's the median. So really, you're probably looking somewhere around making that number 5. So you can actually literally draw a line through it, and we'll just count out what these are, go through, and just pick out whatever that number winds up being. So again, that's something that I could see 20 people. If 20 people straight said that they wanted this fast player slow, they could possibly raise that number up, but it looks like it's going to be pretty low. And then finally, going through this form with everybody, if I could get my mouse to work. Teething problems, my friends. Teething problems. This last poll question. This just gives everyone an idea of when people are going to want to play. Hypothetically, we could have something where we play a majority of the games, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, and that may be how we look at the playoffs, because the playoffs may need to be played twice. We may have to expedite that. Otherwise, it's going to take forever. Realistically, 4 weeks with us would still be the 12 days in real time, which just eats into the time we would have to get into the next season with fewer people playing. So we may ask to expedite the playoffs as fast as possible. But again, that's something we'll get to when we know who's in the first select talent championship. But again, if you guys have any questions, just drop your comments here in the video. We'll take a look. We'll reach back out, and we're gonna try to do this. We're gonna try to do this every Sunday, so at least we'll have something, even if we're just talking about the game.
New leaks, new updates. It's coming, boys.
Yeah,
It's coming.
man. All right, so I've got to ask you this: what are you most excited for in college football 25?
Hmm. I'm I'm excited to see how the player progression system goes. I'm excited to see how
See,
they
that's something I
rate
haven't
rate
heard somebody
people.
ask before.
Rating. I'm excited to see how they rate people. I'm excited to see how like what they garner as ratings. I'm excited to see like if there's like in Madden there's personality traits and then there's like also like reasons why someone would want to go to a school. Like I love that type of stuff. I
Oh.
love recruiting. Like I love that little like that
Well,
perfect
with
like
everybody's name, image, and likeness, I wonder if they're not going to do it something more like FIFA, where they're tracking every game and
right.
adjust it. Like if your wide receiver speed is if you're at say Texas State, uh, your your initial speed's like say an 87, but you actually are a 4-2, 4-3 guy if they'll change that mid-season. That would be
Right.
very interesting to see. And again, for me personally, the thing I'm looking for, I got EA did not do me well. My school, and if any of you have Baylor, if any of you pick up Baylor before I get the opportunity, I just want to let you know I'm coming for you. I will find you, and I will do everything in my power to move into that slot. But I digress. Baylor didn't have got a new stadium. They would have come in NCAA 15. So I've been waiting 11 years to see a brand new dig. And the Floyd Casey, while being Floyd Casey, it was just a very basic bowl. Like, and not even a nice bowl. It was just you could fit 50,000 people in it. Uh, there's no breaks in the architecture, so basically you could walk. Running bleachers there was a punishment that I never want to have to do twice. But with that, um, the new McLean Stadium is nice. We've got the fans running in behind the visiting bench. Basically, they put the entire freshman class sits behind the visiting bench. The band's over there right by your ear too. So it's a smaller place, but nasty place to play, and it gets hot. It's again Texas is Texas, so I can't wait to see like all that. And really, I want to see if they play neck for LSU. LSU would be my sleeper team. I think that could be some fun. But I think that about wraps it up today. And again, just shoot us out any questions. And again, let your friends know we've this number is really really low, boys. Like we only have 20 slots left, and
Yeah.
like I said, the way things are going, we could be looking at running the draft in 2 weeks, a week from Sunday.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. Expect a semi-serious, competition,
hmm
boys. Care about the teams.
Oh,
Care.
it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna make sure that you're up on. We're gonna make sure that we take care of everybody, get you all some FaceTime. Realistically, I'd love to do live interviews. That may be something we look into in the future. But we look forward to helping everybody out and just provide the best coaching simulator we could make within the confines of the game. Because
Get it?
it's a whole lot different playing a computer versus a human with a grudge. I'm looking at you, anyone at Texas A&M. I'm coming for you too.
I love it. I love it, man. Let's get it.
All right. Well, have a great evening, gentlemen, and I hope you have a great day.
You too.
Adios.